Maybe the COVID.
Still do this.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item tonight will be to approve the agenda pending any changes.
At this time, we do not have any changes to the agenda.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda then.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Second.
Ms. Beresowski, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Next item tonight is good news recognitions and announcements.
And I don't know, Kevin, you gave that, yeah, is that on video?
No.
Okay, because I'm gonna have to pull mine up, so I can read it off of the, I remember from yesterday. Let me, we have had, like I said, this has been a slow month, you know, not a slow month, but, you know, activity just now picking back up. to be able to have what's, as our new school year, to have a lot of things going on, but we have had a few things happen over the last month that have involved some of our staff and some of our students that have had some recognitions. And the first one was last week. We were able to have a little presentation. One of our high school teachers, biology teacher, John Maddox, who also last year got National Board Certified, was honored by the National Biology Teachers Association as the Missouri Biology Teacher of the Year. And so again, we had a very little impromptu, informal ceremony, you know, kind of letting him know how great of an honor that was, and glad that he's working here with us. So I want to say congratulations, you know, to Mr. Maddox as well. And then, can you scroll on up, Kevin? I mean, then we also had the Tigerettes dance team that went to a competition this summer, local, and did well enough that they qualified for the opportunity if they can, you know, raise some funds and find the academic time later next spring to go and compete at a competition down in Florida. So again, they work hard. You know, they perform not only at football season, but they also continue on during basketball season. So pretty much it's a year-round commitment, and we want to say congratulations to them, as well as you know, their sponsors who work, you know, very hard to make sure all, because if you've ever noticed, they do pretty much a different routine each time that you see them on the floor performing. Then we also have one of our middle school teachers who's, we know, you've heard her name before many times, very persistent and pursuing a lot of grant opportunities that bring us money and funds for our students to do a lot of neat things. And so again, Mrs. Kelly Genova, along with another teacher at the middle school, Rebecca Young, recently received a $500 grant that came from the MRTA, which is the Missouri Retired Teachers Association. And they're going to use that money to kind of piggyback off of and kind of align with the high school. If you notice, the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years, that we've done a unified program with our student council, has worked with our special needs population, have done like play unified soccer games, track and field, basketball, and they want to now push that down if they can and have some of that also be involved at the middle school level. So this $500 will help you know, get that program off the ground. So we're hoping that again, some of the things that come off of that, you know, I think they're going to start small, but and then expand. I think they've got some initial plans to do some where they run some type of a small business operation involving, you know, some items that kids and staff can purchase. So again, congratulations, and again, we're very much appreciative of any time that our staff members, especially like Kelly, take that extra time to apply for those funds that are going to come back and only enhance the overall experience for our students. And then I think we're safe to say, we'll give more of this later, but in the program that you know, last month we did have you know, our contractor for our ball field complex here, and he assured us the stadium would be done in time for practice, which started on the 9th of August. Have to admit, he came through. That was one of the final photos as they were nearing completion with the turf. And one of the ways we're going to do to christen that field is we're hoping, and right now the plan is to have an alumni game for both baseball players as well as softball players on Sunday, the August 29th at Duke. You say, why Sunday? Well, because we have activities that our kids are involved in that would want to attend something like this every day, especially on Saturdays even. And so this was the one time, this is the middle of the afternoon, and have a couple hours. We're going to, like I said, do some softball play. We're going to have some t-shirts and sell concessions and have some first pitches thrown out by former coaches of the baseball program, so forth. So we're looking forward to that. Mr. Allen and Mr. Pope have been working on that. But again, I know just in the short time that the field has gotten completed, there's still some buttoning up to do with that, and we'll talk about that later, but again, continue daily to see a lot of progress and a lot of feedback that's positive from patrons about that project. So the first game will be coming very, very soon.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of those things? All right, the next item then will be to approve the consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then we will have discussion.
Okay, we'll have discussion after.
After you move to,
My computer just went. Can you scroll that down just a little? I believe on the consent agenda is the approving the district plan. Am I
Yes.
correct? Okay.
If you would like to pull that off and vote separately, we can do that.
That's perfect.
Yeah, we can go ahead and,
Thank you.
if we can pull that off, and then when we vote, it'll be all the items except for that, and then we'll come back and touch on that, if that will, with that.
That's great, thank you.
so is that a motion to approve the consent agenda less item H?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they would like to remove from the agenda, or would like to second the agenda?
I'll second it.
Mr. Wolf with the second. Discussion? Dr.
Yeah,
Mazzei?
a couple items there that are on there that I need to kind of point out. You see there's just the approval of the year-end transfer. You gave us permission in June to close out the end of the year and have our final books, even though we weren't real clear what the numbers would be. There is a copy there of the final numbers that we did with our SBR, that front page that kind of tells we were able to make the maximum transfer for that. And I think there was one other item that I wanted to clarify there. It was the the flu shot clinics, that's right around the corner, and we have, you have to?
Having some internet problems here, so.
Just a little.
I've
But
never
no,
been
but
yet.
but overall, like I said, the ASBR report there, you can see our financials there.
Let me in.
Yeah, our financials there, Mr. Earnhardt might want to talk just a minute, but again, like we said last month, we're just now into August. We did get our August payment notification today from the state. That's running real good, but that's only 2 months. We're basically only about, less than, 12, 14% into our fiscal year. So, we're right now, we really don't know much, and I'll give more of a report on some of our other numbers in terms of enrollment and what that's shaping up to be when I do the superintendent's report. But Mr. Earnhardt, anything you want to point out on any of the financials there in general? I know, like I said, there's really not much at this point. It won't be until we get a little bit further down the road. There'll be a lot to report, but I think our numbers overall of what you came in at when we budgeted, and we're trending fine so far early.
Yeah, right now, we're doing fine. Nothing that's really new information. We're a month and a half into the fiscal year, so we're doing well.
Okay.
And other than that, like I said, then whenever we can go ahead and ask for motion, then we'll come back and talk about any items or questions you have on the return to school plan.
Okay, anyone have any questions on anything else that's on the consent agenda? Excuse me for being rude, Mr. Earnhardt, and welcome to your first meeting tonight.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's right.
I was thrown off by my, yes, welcome, Mr. Earnhardt. I'm glad to have you on board.
Yes, sir. Any questions, other questions on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now we'll circle back to item H, and I think we'll entertain a motion to approve that, and then we'll have discussion on that item.
Motion to approve the return to school plan.
Mr. Wendell?
Second.
Mr. Abrams? Discussion on that?
Yeah, we released our return to school plan. I think it was a little over a week ago. Yesterday, it was worked on throughout the summer, consulting a lot of different entities. Mrs. Roth, also had a lot of input, into that, as we also did. We did get some input from our staff, from our parents. You know, I shared those results with you as well as all the patrons. We really feel that, again, there's not, if you all are aware of the landscape out there, there's not going to be any plan, one way or the other, especially when it comes to certain elements, that's going to make everyone, you know, pleased. And so we felt that, again, tried to make it somewhat of a plan that allowed some flexibility, but it's, even though we have in here that we would start recommending, we would begin the school year by having facial coverings highly recommended but optional for students and staff, but still having other daily mitigation in there, such as staying home if you're sick, hand sanitizing, seating charts, moving in pods, sanitizing, proper hand washing, which I think all contribute together, along with, you know, perhaps, you know, the facial coverings. But then we also did set the threshold there that if we would monitor, just like we did last year, our constant rate of number of positive cases, and then anytime across the district we reached a 1 or 2% threshold, we would then have the leeway to say, okay, there's too many positive cases, we're going to put the universal mandate of facial coverings in until we get lower that threshold. Now you may say, and I know some of you already asked this question, if we're going to set a 1 to 2% threshold, why is it so low? Why isn't it 5 or 10%? Well, I'm going to tell you, it is low, and it's low for a reason. Is because when we're monitoring simply the positivity rate within our school community, our campus community, we know from last year whenever we had a mask mandate what our numbers were at certain times. So 1% across the district at any one time would equate to about 31, 32 positive cases at any single time. 1% at the building levels, okay, like for instance the elementary, let's just say on average take 1,000 in that campus community there on average. 2% would be if we ever got to a point in time where there were up to close to 18 positive cases. We would have the leeway to implement that mandate. And you say, well, why couldn't it be? Well, again, we know from last year we never really got to that 2% or 1% threshold, but we came very, very close, especially that time between Halloween, when we took the fall break, and Thanksgiving. We were running on fumes many times. And I can already tell you, if we even start approaching that 2% mark at a building level, or that 1% mark across the district, just from what we know from experience last year, it will be at that point in time, if we don't do something, it will be hard to keep our schools open, because it was hard last year because positive cases that are active, you then have the close contacts and that, and it could, so I mean, that's why the numbers are where they are. And again, you still have some other viewpoints that say that even that the 1 or 2% is not low, that it's too high. And so we're trying to find a medium where we can assure parents that we're trying to work with them, but we're still going to monitor and be aware that if we really get close to that certain threshold, we're going to likely bring that mask mandate back, along with those other mitigated layers. I know that since we've released this plan, I know you all have had at least one communication that was sent directly. I've had a handful of emails from individuals expressing, any individual that has personally sent me an email one way or the other on either side of the fence, I have personally either responded to the email or I've called them directly. And once I've responded or talked to them and explained the rationale behind the plan, they have, for the most part, said, okay, I see where you're coming from, and they've been consistent with it. As far as, is it a plan that I can say universal 100%, that there's some solid, everybody's behind? No, but I think a good number of people see that it was well thought out. I know that our health professionals locally, Mrs. Roth, she said she has no problem at all, nor do I, defending what we have in this plan, that it's definitely takes all angles into consideration. So, but I understand it's definitely return to school plans all across not only the county, the state, but the country are definitely have drawn a lot of attention. The main thing is we do want to keep our schools open, and we want to try to make sure that we have as many kids here as we can, because we know they learn best in person. So I'll entertain any questions or thoughts this time.
Well, I have two, as you would know. Whereas I totally respect the work that went into this. You can tell this was lots and lots of work and thought. However, I feel masks should be mandated. I am in the classroom every day, and that is my feeling. I feel that's how we stayed open last year, by mandating masks. The other thing is, on the first page where it says mitigating strategies, it says students and staff will be encouraged to socially distance at least 3 feet when possible. I retired in 2017, and I have not been in the halls, but what does the high school hall look like? Is it still packed in the?
I mean, it's gonna depend on where you're at in the building. I mean, I will say, I mean, a lot of it depends strictly on, can depend on how an individual chooses to organize their classroom. I mean, or, if a class, you typically, we have some classrooms where the teacher likes to have students really close together, working in pods, face to face.
Right.
Well, that, you're not gonna have that 3 foot, but if, you can also, but there's also enough room, especially now that the CDC has gone from, where they say 3 to 6 feet, if you go down to 3 foot,
Right.
you can, if you spread out the desk, you
Even
can
if you have a
get,
class of 25 or 27 in a room, you think you can, I don't know.
it's gonna be tighter, and again, the trick on that is, again, the number of kids you have is gonna dictate that, but also I think what's gonna dictate that too is that, not every classroom space is a uniform square footage. And so some classroom one classroom of 25, depending on where that is and what that building is, they might be able to do that. But then you get another classroom of 25, it could have, even with 15 or 20 less square foot, they might not have as much room to, I don't know if that, I mean,
Yeah,
but that's
no.
kind of, it's just not an exact science.
No, and this is, I mean, I don't think there's a win situation here anyway. But I cannot say optional, I must say mask. And I'm doing it, I'm living it every day, so,
I
thank you.
understand.
Other questions, any other comments? You have to get on the, I can't take a comment.
Oh, okay. That's
So
fine.
I
It's my
apologize.
first time, I don't know.
That's the policy, so if you
I
would
didn't
like to
know.
address the board, 24 hours, you have to notify the superintendent, and he can get you on the agenda. And again, I apologize, that's the
No, I
policy.
didn't know how it all worked, it's my first time.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll be more than, and like.
If you have a question when we're done.
Yeah,
somebody-
right
happy
after
to
we're
talk to
done,
you.
I'll be happy to answer any.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Yep, no problems, no problems.
Any other
Other questions from anybody?
questions, feedback? And the one thing I do want to point out on this, and again, without trying to muddy the waters at all, but I know you all have the communications that come to you from the Missouri School Board Association. And I know in recent weeks, the General Assembly, right or wrong, put into effect a piece of legislation that says that no health order can be in effect more than 30 days when there's not a countywide or a statewide order in place. That you have to, that governing body has to go back every 30 days and revisit the plan. And so now there's questions about, does a school district qualify as a governing body? And there's different rulings, but we've been advised through both MSBA, through our own attorney, to all school districts, that even if we approve this plan tonight, because even though we're not mandating one thing, it kind of is a mandate saying we're not, okay, that we're not allowed, you're not having to do something. So again, so what they say is that even though if this is approved tonight in its form, you'll see it back on the agenda again next month, out of the consent agenda, and we have as long, to keep doing that, because we are putting into place some things that are considered, again, in terms of the legislation that was passed, some type of a health type order that technically a governing body really should be able to do unless without a formal vote, more than 30 days, absence of the county or the state.
Okay.
So what happens if it doesn't get approved?
If there's no plan, it's gonna get really complicated, because then, I mean, that's when which I can't give you a definite answer, but I know that that's one thing that the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has been hammering it on, which they hammer us enough anyway, but they send emails out, our state supervisors send emails out, the commissioner sent emails out, because it is a federal requirement for the CARES money that's coming, that's been rolling in, that you have to have an approved plan, it has to be in place, and it has to be, whatever it states, it has to be in place, and it has to be uploaded and distributed, and it has to be put on your website. And I would say that if you didn't have one, and by the deadline, and that they would probably, I can't say what they would do, but I know they've stressed enough, and I would not want to risk putting any of the CARES money, CARES funds that are going to possibly flow, that already have flowed our way, and could come more to, risk tying, some of that up.
What's the deadline?
Well, I mean, technically, like I said, we already had to have one in place that we did in summer school. You're supposed to have it in place by the time you start your first day of school.
So I think the answer to your question was we'd probably be having a subsequent meeting or an extension of tonight's meeting to talk more about this. We'd obviously have to get some of our healthcare professionals from the district.
And I would say if you're not approving it, would just also send a lot of confusion throughout the district, because I think, again, overall, parents have they've gotten it, they've read it, they know what the expectations are, and then if it's not passed, it's then gonna be, okay, it could be a free-for-all. And I don't know, I wouldn't wanna go down that road. I'd either we approve it. If you don't, then I think it should be modified or amended and include what you want in there. If you wanna change the facial coverings to being required, put it in there and we'll vote on that. But doing nothing, I think that will cause a lot more confusion.
I agree with you. It has to be a quorum, I would assume, right?
Other questions? Will you pull the board, please, Ms. Stanley? I think we'll need to pull the board for this one.
Sure, Mr. Wendell,
Yes.
Mr. Fedler,
Yes.
Mr. Wolk,
Yes.
Mr. Edding,
Yes?
Mr. Abrams,
Yes.
Mrs. Beresowski.
No.
Okay, so the motion carries. And again, I respect your opinion, Doreen.
Oh, I know, and I respect that you guys feel that way, but I
It's a
can't.
lose-lose.
Yep, no, we still come out in the end smiling, so
Yeah,
what are we gonna do? We still
just-
respect each other.
I'm
so.
confident that with the plan we have, that, and the
Oh,
limits
I
we
so
have,
hope you're right.
that, if we have to take action, we will.
I wanna be totally wrong. I want somebody to say, I told you so.
I'll do that.
You can, no, Mike, please, I want you to say it. You do it to me.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on now to communication reports. First item will be a report from ATG Sports on construction of new ball
Yeah,
field.
as I said, Don was here last month, and I know we raked him over the coals pretty strong. He answered the bell, though, and they got the work done. He had every intention of coming tonight. He sent us the progress update for the next 2 weeks with just some of the buttoning up items. He did have, at the last minute, he had another Board of Education in another part of the state in Macon, Missouri, that had summoned him for some project that either they were just gonna vote on and do, and so he went there, but I already gave him the date for next month, and hopefully by that time we'll be well done, and he can come back and give us a final update. But you did see the progress update. A few of the minor things that we still gotta get, we did work something out. I mean, we'll have to see what it comes in, but they are gonna move the scoreboard from the location it's at.
Looked
which I
like they were
think-
working on that today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were out there with the Bobcat and auger digging in the left field fence this afternoon.
Hit the rock. Yeah, so they're gonna do that, and they still have to finish up some areas in the bathrooms, concession stand area, but I know that as we've talked with Mr. Allen and Mr. Pulpit, they've talked with him about the alumni game. I mean, he has pretty much assured us that all the small pieces should be in by that date. They did actually also this week get in the, for quite a while there, the actual fencing for the outfield and that, the larger outfield finally came in, they've got all that in place, and the netting for the batting cages came in, and so it looks sharp. I'm very pleased from where I was last month, and I told him that I would, say that I was, again, pleased with the way that, ATG had stepped up and, took care of their commitment, and got it done for our kids, didn't have to miss and relocate once practice started.
Yeah.
What,
Did
what-
it- oh, you go ahead.
pavement issue is not coming up, I've read it at home, but
Yeah,
I'm
the
now-
pavement issue was just, it's just, I put that on there, again, like with any construction project, they had some very, very, very heavy equipment that came in there, and now again, there's some other behind the scenes.
Had to have it, I mean,
And, so there is some repair work that's gonna have to be done, and of course, right now, we already came in and had SCI engineers come in and do some drilling just to make sure that the compact, when it was put in, was all at see if it wasn't maybe underneath, or was it more than likely the result of the heavy equipment. And I think I did upload the report that showed, what their finding was. I've talked to the ATG about that. I think we're gonna be able to work something. I mean, they understand that, that it was, and I'm sure we can work something out.
yeah, I was able to read it at home, but I can't see nothing, it's just hard to believe that 2 inches of rock. Really, I mean, were you gonna put their drive here but not there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
I thought it was 6 inches
Well,
everywhere, and 8
6.
inches in the drive lanes.
yeah,
and-
but it's like, okay, you guys can drive here, but you can't, that just don't make
Yeah,
no sense.
yeah, that part of it, and I was gonna go back I just haven't had to, but I was gonna go back and ask, the engineer about it, because I thought the wording, a couple of the wording choices about the the heavy duty versus the regular, I thought that wasn't worded the best.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have the whole thing, heavy
So,
duty, because
Well,
I'm not sure how much 2 inches, extra inches of rock would have cost, but,
And like I said, I don't, like I said, I still want, I'm gonna get some clarification, because I still don't, we haven't had any problem on that part, on either, any of that lot at all, and there's been, Brock Miller's had some of their stuff on the upper end, but then it's only been down there on that, and it just came about most of it when we got really hot in June, late June and that, and then that's when they had a lot of equipment. I mean, that's when we started first noticing.
yeah.
They had some huge trailers that they brought some dozers in on, and, it was,
Because you can't helicopter that stuff in, you gotta get to the site you're working at.
so.
Okay, other questions? All right, the field is amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's super nice. And, I've seen the kids already on there using it. so
Oh,
it's great.
great.
Yep.
It's all about the kids.
Okay, next time we'll get an update from the architect on the PAC construction.
Okay, Roy is here from the Arc Images, and he's gonna kind of give you an update on just the progress, but then he's also gonna talk a little bit about, as you noticed, the last few, we get into the final stage, there have been some modifications to the plans that have got to be, we got to give an okay on or not to move forward with. He's gonna explain some of those. He's part of it, if you're able to click on that and get up, I did include a spreadsheet that they put together that I went through and checked that does show between phase 1, which was the parking lot, and phase 2, where we're at now. And remember, we said from the get-go, we want this, we're not gonna spend more than a certain amount, I think with that 14 million. And so this shows all the numbers with change orders that have been approved, with change orders that are still pending, that we gotta decide where that puts our overall budget at, and you can see, where that shakes up. So Roy, you can come and give us an update, and then, now, we're not gonna be able to approve the change orders on this go-around, we're gonna have to, he's explain, answer questions, and then later on, under new business, is where you'll come back and we'll approve the, and it's the same handout spreadsheet you see on that item as you do here, so. Roy, go ahead.
Okay. Sure, just a quick update on the Performing Arts Center. They are doing a lot of site work. They got a lot of curbs going in, they're getting ready to do some paving here shortly. They got a lot of the utilities all done. So the curbing and the sidewalk are being installed. They're doing retaining walls, and they're getting planter areas ready to get planted and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on the outside of the building, including exterior finishes on the exterior of the building. A lot of the metal panel cladding is going up. You've probably seen some of that. So it's coming together really nice. The interior wise, there's people all over everybody. It's a real busy atmosphere in there. There's drywall going up. There's a lot of painting going on. A lot of the finishes are being installed. The ceilings are being worked on. We're in the process of inspecting a lot of the stuff overhead for the auditorium so they can get those big lifts out of there and start the finishes in there. The stage, they put up a lot of that theater equipment up in the fly loft. So it's really coming together and looking very, very nice. It's going to be a real good facility that you guys, I can't wait for you guys to see. As far as the change orders go, as Dr. Luttrell said, we put together this spreadsheet to give you kind of that global look on where we are today. Starting off at the top of the page, it shows you what our parking lot costs were and what the change orders as we went through that process. Those are line item out there. And then in the phase 2, I've detailed out all of the items within that area. We have previously talked to you guys all about the items down to number 15, and then we had a number of these on the last month's that I promised you we'd go back and vet out and make sure that we got everything that we needed and they weren't, being overcharged. And as you can see, a lot of the numbers in there, like on 16R, that went down by $3,000. The 18, which was the big one that we talked about last time, which had multiple parts and pieces within that, we were able to find some of those items and got the contractor to understand that some of those things were in the original project, so we were able to reduce the cost of that. We did work with them on some of the credits, the line items that you see that have the red numbers in there. Those are credits to the project that we've been working on and we're able to get there. Towards the end of the list, we've had some of the other modifications that we are describing to you guys there with their dollar amounts. And right now, we are looking at a total of, in that 12.6 range, which is about a 1.8%, 1.9% for the different items that the owner may want to use and utilize. And I did that to allow you guys to see that even with those budget items, we are still within that budget amount. So the last few line items that are down on the very bottom of the page give you a total synopsis, including the parking lot phase. And I'm happy to go through, any other questions or any other items that you want to discuss. We can certainly go into some detail if we need to. I try to give you guys a good, written description of what we've got going on in each one of those.
Just on the moisture content in the slab,
Uh-huh.
did you guys, is that all gonna be covered with the flooring, some type of flooring? I
Yeah,
guess my
what-
question is, did you guys try to open that up anyway?
Yeah, what we've done is on the moisture content, first of all, on the moisture content, we had the contractor at bid day give us a price in case that had to come up. Because usually a lot of times it does come up. Now, we didn't include it in the price, but we were able to use that as a number, a not to exceed number. So we had that held in the contract for a certain amount, okay? And so when they go throughout the facility, you have to test the slab moisture because certain flooring won't stick if it's too wet. Or you have to do a coating over the top of the floor and then put the flooring on top of it. We are looking at the terrazzo right now that goes into the lobby area. And right now, the moisture content is a little bit high. We're hoping that it's going to start to go down some. If it doesn't, that's when that number kicks in, okay? And we would have to then change order that to them for that amount. A lot of the times, the VCT or the vinyl tile Sometimes those will need some extra glues or something like that, but all of that is contained within that 13.9. So,
And as I said, if you don't have any questions on that, we'll move on, but we would come back then under new business, that first item, and that's when we would request a motion to, and Roy, you might have to help us there on
Sure.
when we approve that, you might have to tell us specifically which ones, which numbers we're approving and what amount that is, so that we get it correct, so that they're not.
Sure, I can add those up as we go, but from
Yeah.
16 down to 26
Okay.
would be
yeah,
the numbers,
okay.
right?
Well, the motion could just be, we're
Yeah.
gonna change over
Item
16 to 26.
Okay,
And then, and if we could, that would be,
okay.
that'd be
Are there any other items looming, or that, anything else that you guys are, this is still hanging out there? Could be an issue?
14.
As of about 4 o'clock today, when I get back in the office from driving to Kansas City and back, I don't believe there are. So, now, we still have a couple months to go, all right? And both the contractor and architect know that we do not want to have any other changes to it. Now, as we go, I can't promise there won't be, but we are very diligent about not having any other changes.
I just,
That is definitely our goal.
we look like we're in decent shape,
Yep.
we're getting close to the end, and it's
Believe
all
me.
getting close to these.
And it is, and fortunately, we are getting close. So there's a lot of things that have already been vetted out, as you can see, that we've run into, that we've dealt with. The finishes are really what's gonna be happening now. So there shouldn't be much else left to have changes on, so.
Okay,
I'll be here every month and report back to you guys on the
That's good.
status update.
Just one question.
And while he's up there, one thing that he did see that I did include as part of an upload that, just for your own viewing, would be, as one of, maybe it didn't come out that, maybe it's down on the other one. But thought I had uploaded there for you all to look at. Also, he had put the actual images there of some of our siding, exterior signage might look like if we decide to go with it. I don't think that uploaded, but I'll get that to you. But we are, even though that is an older expense, that's, you see that order of what amount we've still got in the budget that we would spend on that. And I think they've given us a couple options that would be very aesthetically pleasing when you look at it.
We have to, I mean, like, change order 20 was actual credit for reducing the quantity of electric panels, and then you come down to 25, and we're adding
There's
additional
some more,
breakers
right.
in.
Yeah, and there are different areas. There are different areas within the project. So we were able to take advantage of one area that we were able to reduce, but then another area we had to add a couple.
I was just wondering why we were taking,
Yeah.
just if it was all kind of similar, why we were.
No, it just was a happenstance, that we had two different areas of the electrical that we needed. One, we did get a credit back because we were able to work some things out, which is a plus, and then the other, unfortunately, we had to add a couple of panels just because of the theater equipment and stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
In the very beginning, like, set of plans, City of Festus gets a set, I guess,
Yes?
Ameren, or do they?
Yeah, we submit to all the authorities having jurisdiction and utility companies. Now, that doesn't mean that,
Once they can approve it and then still come back and say, oh,
unfortunately, yes. You know,
well,
that
they
was-
obviously did.
Yeah, they do, yeah, and Ameren, they're,
I know it's not a lot of money, but,
no, but they do, and they're, like we all.
well, they're not engineers, I
No,
know. But
and-
Ameren is,
Yeah.
there's no excuse, they should have plenty of engineers. on it.
No, and they do, but, their focus is the immediate, and they have one group that works with us in the very beginning, another during the middle part, and another during construction, so I think that's why, as Ameren goes, that's why we went through that process with them. We were able to reduce that cost too, once we got their final design, we pushed back quite a bit, we were able to get rid of one of the vaults there, so we did save some money on that part, but there was a change to the approved plans at one time, so. Okay.
other questions? All right, thanks,
All right.
Roy, we'll see you here in just a second.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next item then will be report on the Country Partnership and Early Childhood Program
Yeah.
implementation.
Yes, we had, as you know, Dr. Bruce has been working on the early childhood program implementation, which is set for the fall of 23, ideally. And she's gonna give an update on that, as well as we reported a couple months ago, we had asked for permission to apply for a grant through Comtre, which was 100% funded for several years. And our obligation would be to provide some space for that. Through that, we would be able to offer more comprehensive health services in the evening hours and that to our students and their families. So Dr. Bruce is going to give you a brief update on what the current status of that, whether it was approved or not, what the next steps are, then also give you a brief update as to where we're at with the planning of the early childhood program.
First, just as he said, if you recall, in the spring, we did the partnership with Comtree. It was 100% funded by a Comtree grant. So what they needed from us was the space and the location to house the program. It is behavioral health services, so it'll be mental health. We'll start off, you've heard probably the term of comprehensive health services. We're not venturing that far to do comprehensive health, so we're going to kind of start off small and offer some mental health services in our facility. It's in a location where the old counseling center was, so that there's some access to the outside doors so that they can do after hours for families as well. So they'll be able to service all of our students K through 12 through referrals from our counselors and through families. And then if the family needs to come in for additional counseling services or therapy or psychiatric evaluation, things like that, they'll be able to come in after hours using that access close to that old counseling center. So those renovations will start mid-September, and we just have a few things we need to do. Again, it's totally 100% funded by the Comtree grant. Those renovations are also included. And Comtree will be hiring the staff. They'll take care of the paperwork, and they'll take care of the billing for Medicaid types of family situations. So, like I said, I'm excited about it. It's a first partnership to try to venture into this comprehensive health for our students. So we're going to get that started. Mrs. Roth was a part of it. Mr. Stegeman was a part of it, and Mr. Bauman. We've all met. Dr. Schiniger was a part of it at the end, looking at space. So we've tried to include everyone and make sure that we're covering all the needs. The counselors have had input in that as well. Mrs. Sparza helped us at the beginning phases. So I think we've included everyone. And the services, we're hoping, once the renovations are finished, to start October, maybe mid-October is what we're shooting for. So again, they have to hire the staffing, and we have to get the renovations done, but that's what we're looking for. And then the early childhood program. Implementation timeline. If you remember, back in the spring, we started our committee. We had a committee of teachers and parents, different types of early childhood programs around just locally what we know is around us. We looked at some of the Taj Mahal types of early childhood programs, and the committee did all that homework, and then they chose not to meet over the summer, and so we're going to kick that back off in September. We have our first kickoff meeting. We are working really hard. Our next step now is to try to make a decision about classroom size, facility, on campus versus off campus. If we're going off campus, what can meet our needs? As you well know, there's not a lot of availability in our area, and so we're really trying to look at all of the possibilities. And so when we meet in September, that's our goal. We're going to shoot for trying to have some type of recommendation to you by December about what we feel is the best option for serving the kids, early childhood kids in our community. So we're going to kick that off in September and hopefully have some information to you by December.
Okay, questions? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Two good programs there. Excited to see those continue forward.
Definitely.
Then we have now the superintendent's report.
Yes, real quickly, just a couple things I wanted to highlight to you. The main one is enrollment. Just kind of, it's going to be fluid through Labor Day, but just doing some comparison numbers, it's a little bit, it's good, but it's also challenging. I know that last year on the first day of school, we had an enrollment K-12 of 3,119 students. Now, today, which we're still several days out of the first day, and we'll continue to get enrollees, we'll continue to get more withdrawals, kids that are transferring out, but right now, we have a K-12 enrollment of 3,300, which means we're up 181 students across K-12. But If you look down there at the bottom though, before you get too worked up on the withdrawal comparison, we're still probably gonna see another 60 withdrawals, probably at least. Now, we'll get some more enrollees, but even with that, I was talking with Ms. Hearn this afternoon, we could potentially wind up, with about, even if, wind up with an additional 120, and we keep 70 of those ADA-wise, which would generate some revenue, but of course it also creates challenges on the other end in terms of where they all fall in terms of space and that. I gave you the breakdown there that just shows every grade level, where we were at the first day last year, what that looks like currently right now. There'll still be some withdrawals. How many of those students this year new are enrolled as a waiver, either waiting for their house to be built, or they may have had to move in, families had to move in with, parents or something because of some family situation, through that process that we have to validate. So like I said, and then this other thing just wanted to that we probably need at some point this fall to discuss, maybe if we have a work session or what, to see how this all falls out after our enrollment falls out in 2 or 3 weeks. But, we've had our demographic study done back in 2014, and then we had it updated before our election in 2019. And, every year we plug the numbers in on count day at the end of September and look to see how the projections, which remember they give us just what your lowest point be, your medium or your high point might be for that year and across grade levels. And like I said, right now when they forecast us out through 28-29 school year, the numbers that we're showing right now across the boards and buildings and at grade levels, we were not forecast even come close to those numbers at the highest level possible until the 28-29 year, okay? So, again, we are having an influx. This is, at least the last 4 years, we've seen that steady trend, which has been 30 or 40. This is a huge one, if it holds. And I'll be able to report more on that next month, but it's a good thing to have, much more than when you don't have new enrollees and you're dropping enrollment, but it does create some other challenges as well. And I've talked with the principals, Dr. Roos, we'll be talking with them even more. Mr. Earnhardt's gonna have to go back to the budget, find us more money, probably if we have to maybe hire some aides to assist with some classes, or if some of our sections may have to add. Our problem, we're getting to the point though where, 17th school year, we had it, the 18 classrooms between the elementary and high school. The elementary ones are pretty much full. I mean,
How many students do we have in kindergarten class, average kindergarten class?
and that's where the anomaly is, Doreen. Like I said, because we were hitting about 240, 245 in kindergarten, and then 2 years in a row we dropped to like 216, and so I thought, okay, that's where we should be, because that's.
Right.
But then we shot back up now, and so it's.
So
now, I
the
don't know.
class is
We're
big?
thinking that some of those, which it doesn't matter because it is what it is, but
Yeah.
we're thinking some of that could be a result of it. We think there could have been a lot of parents, several of those we didn't ask when they enrolled this year, but I'd be curious to maybe have Paula go back and look to see on how many of those kindergartners could have went last year, but the parents, just because of the circumstances, because kindergarten is not required, so maybe they're starting them now. I don't know, but that is a huge number. But you can see there what our enrollments are going to be at each of our buildings. But like I said, it's hard to tell. I'll give you an update next week, but I do expect there'll be at least another 60 withdrawals out of that, but there'll be some new additional enrollees as well. But we're definitely going to wind up.
So, but we're keeping under the 19, 20 in kindergarten.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
So that's a little bit on enrollment. We also, as I talked earlier about the question about if we did not approve a plan, like I said, the federal government, whenever they have their hand in, of course, they put a lot of rules and regulations, but we do have funds that, have come, that will be coming our way at some point. We got ESSER funds early in the 20, but then last fall, ESSER 2 was passed, the Stimulus Act, CARES Act, and then another one was passed in March, ESSER 3, and there's some stipulations about where that money needs to be allocated or how you can allocate it, different hurdles you have to make sure you get input from stakeholders on how they feel it should be allocated, you have to spend a certain percentage of it to go into helping students that might have suffered some type of learning loss during the pandemic because they were virtual or whatever without that interaction. And so we're still working on that. You had to have a plan submitted by next week to the state, and a very generic plan. You can go back and amend it multiple times. And this money can be expended. It doesn't have to all be expended this school year. It can be expended over the next 3 fiscal years. Okay, all the way up to fiscal year 25.
That's great.
So we don't have to rush it, and ideally, hopefully, we can write a plan that's going to be able to serve our purpose, but also that maybe 10 years from now, people will look back and say, you know, Festus really allocated that money wisely that they had, you know, because it's not every day that the levels of money that is coming that we have that ability to allocate to enhance our kids. And so, in fact, Mr. Earnhardt, if you want to, Mr. Earnhardt is our key person that has basically been working on the application that has to be, in fact, submitted early by, I think, Monday. And so, Mr. Earnhardt, if you want to make any just general comments about the plan and where we're going to be headed in terms of getting input, you and Dr. Bruce, feel free to, if you want to say anything briefly.
So one of the things that we decided to focus was on this Vision 26 plan, and we need to allocate these funds to meet the goals of that plan. One of those is the early childhood facility. And I think we can utilize some of that money maybe to free up a little more in our tax levy to put towards Fund 4 to help with future building of this early childhood facility, or whether we're going to build or renovate or whatever we're going to do facility-wise. We can supplement some of the money in Fund 1 with ESSER money and put more of our tax levy into Fund 4 to help with the capital projects. Dr. Roos and I have had a lot of conversations. I've worked with our principals. I think for us, the biggest challenge right now is we have to spend 20% on learning loss, and that's a ticket of about $600,000. And so right now, our principals are finalizing some tutoring programs and some things of that nature to help with that. Dr. Roos is working on some figures for assessment pieces and software to house data, because we'll use that data to identify the students that need the tutoring. And so all that's going to funnel in. But I think right now the biggest challenge we have is allocating enough money to that 20% that it doesn't affect anything else.
Okay, Dr. Bruce, you want to add anything to that? Like I said, we do at some point, we're going to include, as they said, include a lot of our stakeholders that came together for our Vision R6 and 26 planning to kind of see, you know, hey, what are their thoughts? And we are going to engage a lot of input. Out there that they have said that, you know, the input, they want input from stakeholders. That there's also some pretty strict guidelines in terms of you can't just appropriate, oh, let's give everybody X amount. There's clear guidelines on what you can and can't do on that end. So we'll keep you updated as we move forward. But we have not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Earnhardt, but you know, the ESSER 1 money that came through in March of 20, right after the pandemic hit, we've already got that. We already allocated that. That was for things that we needed to get through that year. The ESSER 2 funds that came through last fall and the ESSER 3 funds, okay, we have not allocated any of that yet. So I mean, we have
That's
not.
correct.
So we're still. That's what we got to get the plan submitted, and then we're not. We want to be deliberate about it.
So with ESSER 2, we just have to submit a budget. And we have until September of '23 to spend that money. With ESSER 3, we have to submit a budget and a plan both. And so we've got, as Dr. Luttrell said, to fiscal year 25, but our plan's due next week. So we get to project 4 years out. So that's another piece of this.
We can go back and amend.
Yeah.
We can
But
go
you
back.
can, I was going to ask, you can amend it, because
Yes.
So that's a little bit about ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. I did want to give a real quickly about, you know, since we are coming back, you know, we have, we've said we want to try to get back to some normalcy as much as we can. The external use of facilities, especially the outdoor spaces, Twin City football, and that is requested. I'm okay, as long as y'all are doing that. I think we need to try to open up our, facilities to our outside groups as well, interior-wise, if it's a manageable event. I know every year we have, different, sometimes we'll have community subdivision groups do their homeowners
That
association
would
meeting.
be, yes,
We've had some requests for those already, and I'm fine with approving those with all on conditions that, you know, the landscape changes enough that we reserve the right at the last minute if we need to pull it back. But I think we need to try to open that up, especially for the outdoors, and on the indoor ones, like I said, the ones that involve homeowner association smalls, very rarely, it might be 2 or 3 a year. I think the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, some of them are wanting to start back up, and so, you know, we do some of those events, and we'll just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. But if you all are okay with that, I plan on, we're going to try to roll that out, you know, at a steady pace. Want to talk real quick about just, you know, bus routes. It's harder and harder to find bus drivers, but our bus drivers do a great job. Just want to update you, one of the things that we have had discussions with our director, Mrs. Rupp, about is we have never gone down, we do not go down private drives, because sometimes those roads are too narrow. Private subdivisions that are under a homeowners association, that are outside the city limits, we go down them as long as the roads are maintained, okay? And we've had they all do a great job. But we have had in recent years, a couple areas that we've sent buses, but for whatever reason, even after contact, the association out there are not maintaining the road, and it's been rough on some of our buses, and so we've contacted some of those individuals out there that ride and said, look, we're gonna need you to meet us. We haven't had any problems with that. It's speaking different data. And then another thing is, I'm probably may come back to you in September, October. We've got a couple areas, not many, but again, private subdivision areas that are always generally good, except whenever it comes bad weather. And so like some of those association, county doesn't go in there because it's not city or county. And so they're responsible for their own care. And sometimes, again, it doesn't get maybe the attention that it should. And so if we're sending buses in there, sometimes we have to make a decision, okay, do we not pick up there? Or do we just cancel for the whole district when every other road is clear, okay? So one thing our directors talked to us about is we might look at, and it would just be on a very rare occasion, that we might notify a couple or areas that if there are days in the winter that we are having school, we might declare, quote, we're running snow routes only. And then those areas, those just small pocketed areas that would know they're a they would have a designated pickup point for that. And we would communicate all that out, but just some things we've got in motion, I think will work through fine. The big subdivision going in behind the middle school, the old Burns Farm, which is Birchwood subdivision, you know, that thing is really taken off. If you recall, one thing that the city of Festus did, which was really a good thing before they approved that division, they said, we'd like to see maybe, why don't you try putting a sidewalk in at the back of that subdivision that would lead over to the middle school, so that kids that walked, you know, they could walk, and then they could do the crosswalk, and then we've got sidewalks in for the middle school around to the rest of the campus. And so the contractor said they would take it, if you remember, to the end of there, then once it got to the edge of ours, we would then pick up and take over. And so if I put there in my superintendent's report as an upload, where I put the Birchwood, there's 3 different files there. One's a sidewalk, it shows, the first one there shows where the sidewalk, how it connects. And then the second image there if it comes up, no, like it came up. But then the third one there, though, actual sidewalk, they've already got their portion done. And
How
so,
wide is that?
I think it's 5.
It's not ADA compliant either.
Well, yeah, because of that one.
It's a skateboard ramp.
And-
There's no way.
And so, we have to, like I said, we have to, look at, determining, like I said, if we're going to, at our point now, connect, to the rest of it from, because they come to the edge of their property. And, so we've been in discussions, our maintenance, person has been in contact with, Giselle and the contractor that did that, and we're trying to work out some final kinks, like you mentioned about, we gotta make sure about compliance issues, as well as another key part is the fact that, you know, the maintaining of it, because you've got 2 separate entities there, and so like, again, there's gonna have to be some clear guidelines spelled out, because really, we can't be obligated in winter, whenever it snows, to go shovel all that way down. We can shovel ours if we need to, or put it down there, and then if it starts deteriorating at any point in time, there's gonna have to be, you know, again, you know, we can't be the ones to expect it to go down and fix the whole thing, it's gonna have to be a shared, so those are some things we're still working out, so we have not poured our part yet, it will not be ready to go, for the start of the school year, but we are continuing to have those ongoing discussions that, with both, Giselle as well as the city of Festus has been kind of communicating with us on that, as well, but no, there's,
I wouldn't connect to that. That's
so,
been a
but
while
anyway,
since I had anything to do with sidewalks in the city, but they'd have come down on us for something like that.
so, but I will come back, like I said, next month, I don't think, but hopefully we can get it, work something out before we get too far into the winter, because I do, as you all know, there's a lot of houses back there, and I do think there'd probably be some, kids that would be wanting, to use that, so I want to mention that. And then we've got, the last thing there was simply about, I don't think I even had it on, it was the fact that our convocation, back to school convocation breakfast, was this morning out at the Shalimar. We did have a few staff that, for whatever reasons, you know, were able to watch it via our Boxcast. And we had those that were there, like I said, it was a good morning, good breakfast. Captain Wendell was there and gave the welcoming remarks on behalf of the board. So we thank him for doing that. But all in all, it was a good morning, and I think the staff overall seemed really glad to be back and are ready to tackle another school year, hopefully. But I do think we are all hoping that it will be a little bit less intrusive as it was last year, but we know it's going to be a school that we're definitely going to have to be ready each and every day. So that's my superintendent's report.
Okay, questions from anyone? No? All right, next item is the campus enhancements, and I believe we have a presentation.
Yep, and then if you real quickly, if you just take some of a lot of the projects we've had, go over some of them, give you an update of the some of the projects. You already, you know, again, we did renovated restrooms over at the high school, as well as the elementary. This should just about complete all the restroom renovations we've done across the campus in the last 4 years. Those do have the dividers in that. I've done these pictures were taken late last week. And then we did have a piece of pavement that was already, again, they'd been buckling for years over by the trash compactor right outside the high school cafeteria. A lot of people walk when they go to and from games. So we had that patched, which was not. They kind of did that same time they were doing the other road work here. Kevin, okay, and then we got, if you remember, we came to you all last month and we asked, because we had track this past season, after last summer, we moved all the field events, a lot of them, the pole vault, long and triple jump over to this side. So this year, spring, we found out you couldn't really see, so we put a sidewalk in outside the fence that leads around to a portable slab where we're gonna put grandstand of bleachers, and next spring, people that want to get a closer view of these field events on this side will have an area to walk on as well as area to sit. Turned out, said, you know, really, really well. Then we over there on the opposite side of the field, right outside, this area right here, we poured a pad. This looks down on where they actually throw the actual shot put and discus, so we're gonna set up bleachers there. People can sit in the grandstand facing down this way and actually see the shot and discus thrown. Then these two pads here were poured for practice for the kids that throw the shot and disc. They can get more reps in than having to wait, for just all off of one pad. This is over at the high school, the security vestibule that we added, that's inner second set here. That, again, was at the high school. That's, again, was a new there, with the window. That's also at the high school with that, it used to just be outdoor. It was an indoor closet. You came in the hall, we carpeted that. And that also required a renovation of the actual office space itself, which really turned out, I think, nice. Principal's office. And then over at the intermediate school, we put the security vestibule in last year, so this year we went in and refinished the office area because we weren't able to do it last year with all the other work going on. New carpet painting, we had to do a reconfiguring there. Offices back there, the principal's offices, counselor's offices, all of that was redone. We also had, remember the amphitheater, now that we got the Performing Arts Center coming on board, we actually were able to renovate that into more of a multi-purpose space. And that's pretty much the way it finished. It really came out nice. You can see the coverings there for like wrestlers or dancers or cross-country kids coming there for a meeting. They've got places to put their stuff. Then we'll have mats, if it's wrestling, they'll be put down for wrestling and cheerleading practice, dance practice. Again, just really turned out now going to be much more good use of that space.
It doesn't even, you wouldn't even know what it looked like before.
No, you would not. Then the basic course, the new the new ball field complex. Like I said, some of the pictures there. One thing that some people have asked is, in case you are asked, some people says, well, where's the press box? The decision was made early on that the press box, instead of being a traditional press box up high, it needed to be more ground level. That's the kind of thing. So when you see the two dugouts, okay, this back here is a concession stand, bathrooms and that, but over here on this dugout, you see there's another adjacent area, it's part of it, that's got a window. That's going to be where, if you have anybody there keeping the scorebook, announcing media, that's the little room there that they'll be located at to watch and do the game. There's not a formal press box, but that was something that, again, it was a decision known going in, and you can see there are some of our kids, like I said, working that first couple days of practice. We did put also, Mr. Allen worked as, we developed some spirit banners across campus and put them on all of our light poles. We think added a nice element of school spirit. We only put these on light poles that we own. So you can drive around campus and you're saying, well, why is it the one on that light pole? It's not one on a light pole, especially the wooden ones, we don't own it. Okay, the wooden ones are not our property, and so we didn't want to bother them. So, but most of them, you do see them out there, but they had a nice touch. Then, of course, you get over to the Performing Arts Center, as Roy was talking. You look at the, this is in the lobby area as you would come in to the facility. And then this is actually would be the interior of the auditorium. I think this is actually taken from up, it would be from the sound room up top looking down where all the seats would go. And then, of course, right up there would be the stage area. So, and again, these were all taken a couple weeks ago. They've come a long ways. And this is the outer lobby hallway. So, again, just some of the projects that you've always given the okay for us to do. And like I said, our facility campus continues to be enhanced because of it.
Okay, looks good, good stuff. Questions, anybody, any of the campus improvements? All right, we'll move on then to prior new business. The first item there is to approve the change orders pertaining to the Performing Arts Center.
And earlier you had our architect from Arc Images, Roy, come and explain to you a lot of what we needed to do heading into the final stretch. And so now is the time we need to see if there's consensus to move forward and make a motion to approve, I believe it was Roy, change orders
16 through 26.
16 through 23 as
26.
16 through 26. And do you have an overall dollar amount on that, just so we can add it up, and that way if we could have it as
Sure.
part of the motion, that would help for clarification. And as he's figuring that out, as we said, we would ask for the approval to accept the cost proposal, change orders for 16 through 26 for those items, that are listed. And as he also indicated, this still keeps us, including the items that we still have to incorporate as part of the owner, under our total budget that we had outlined for both Phase 1, which was the parking lot, as well as Phase 2, which is now the actual facility itself.
Got, if it all worked out, 97,463.45.
97,463.45.
0.45.
So $97,463.45. That's the amount of the change orders, and that brings us current, heading into the final phases of the project. If there's a motion to accept those.
Someone like to make that motion?
Make a motion to accept change orders 16 through 26 as presented.
I'll second
In that amount.
Other questions?
it. We really had no choice but to approve these, correct? I mean,
You do.
yeah, I mean,
If you want it done right.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Depending on the different things, so.
Wait for a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thanks. Other questions? All's in favor? Is anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We look forward to
Word.
ongoing progress, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the annual school district tax rate hearing date.
We, like I said, just as an item of information, we typically have to approve, set the tax rate no later than October 1st for us, since we're a first-class county. Normally, I've always done the tax rate hearing as part of the regular session in September. So that would be, we'll put all this in the paper, give notice 2 weeks in advance, would be at our regular meeting on Thursday, September 16th. I will say that I think, again, our patrons are should be pleased because of the Hancock Amendment, the way that works, and we'll go into that more next month, Mr. Earnhardt will. While our tax rate has been $4.34 the last couple of years because of Prop 19 and that, but the way the Hancock Amendment works is if your AV goes up overall, if it goes up over a certain point, you can only capture a certain amount. And so you don't really take in less money, you just don't get as much as you would get. And so it looks like we're gonna probably have to roll back about at least 24 cents. And so that our patrons will see that benefit, for sure when they get there, even though, because our overall assessed valuation in the district went up about, our first certification went up about $32 million, which took us from $291 million to about $323 million. And so the way the legislation offsets that, it's kind of, complicated, but we'll explain that next month. But it should be good for our patrons that even though they're gonna, their property values increased in that, and the rate, the rate they pay on their tax bill isn't gonna be as great as it would be if we weren't having to roll back. It's a give and take, but we'll get more of that
So
next month.
basically, they'll be paying about the same amount, but it's just due to the fact that their property values increased.
Yeah, now we get,
But what we're taxing them is actually going down.
correct.
But we'll still be getting about the same amount of money.
Yes. In fact, we shouldn't, like I said, we'll explain more next time, but yeah, you really don't go backwards. It's just that if the Hancock Amendment wasn't in place, we would be in line to capture about $1.2 million in new revenue. But because of the Hancock Amendment there, because again, if it's to protect the taxpayer, which is good, we're probably going to get to capture 1.4%, which is the CPI, which translates to a little less than 200 grand, which will still have some new revenue. It's just not near as much as we could have if without that, or if we'd been at the polls. But we'll talk more about that next month. But it's still it's something I just wanted to make sure everybody, that will be set next month.
Okay. Any questions on that from anyone? Then the last item for open session is the discussion of the vacant Board of Education position.
And I know that we've talked about that the last couple of months, and I think you said we just put it on one final time. I think that the feedback I've gotten, from somebody said, unless we started having a problem of having a quorum, reaching consensus on items, it might be best to not fill it and try to wait till the next election when the board filing opens. But you all are free. You don't have to take a formal vote. You can just decide as a group, hey, and just say, hey, we are going to, or we're going to just see how things continue to go down the next few months.
I haven't changed my opinion.
I wasn't here last month, but I watched the meeting from last month since I was out, but I kind of agree with Todd. I think my opinion is we leave it where it's at right now, let the voters decide whenever it's time to open it up again.
agree.
Agreed, yep, agreed.
Okay?
We'll take it off.
That's what we'll do. We'll not do that.
Okay. Anyone else have anything for open session? Now I entertain a motion with the roll call vote to enter into executive closed session with closed record, closed vote pursuant to RSMO 610.021, sections 3, 13, and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Will you pull the board, please, Ms. Stanley?
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Pedler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Edding?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Parazzowski?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll